We're being joined by Manu Kaushik, aviation correspondent of Business Today TV, and Abha Bakaya, the senior editor of Business Today TV as well. I want to take this first across to Abha Bakaya. Abha, you track this space very closely. If you could tell our viewers the strategic importance, one, of 100% sellout by the government in terms of disinvestment to the Tatas of Air India, and secondly, the nuances of this particular deal in terms of how high was the bid value of the Tatas compared to the Ajay Singh, who's the promoter of SpiceJet.
All right, so we've heard reports, Chaiti, while the bid value is still to be released, that this was significantly higher, 3,000 crores more than the bid price and about 5,000 crores than what we saw from Ajay Singh of SpiceJet. Critical, of course, to getting the government's divestment agenda on the go. Remember, they needed one big ticket divestment to really get the ball rolling, and that's why they had made such a significant shift to the bidding process, basing it on enterprise value, which was coming to about 15 to 20,000 crores, keeping the debt off the books completely. However, this isn't going to be an easy exercise for new owners either. While they have already done extraordinary due diligence, preempted for any kind of liability, any kind of court cases that may come up, let me just take you through the kind of legacy issues they're going to have to deal with here as well. There are lots of lease contracts that include assurances from the government, change of control provision, which essentially ensures that the new company will continue to pay lease rental, will continue to pay termination penalties as well on those. Less than half of Air India's 70 narrow-body planes are competitive. Majority of them need an overhaul. That's what Mr. Dua was saying earlier as well, that Tatas do have a good relationship with Boeing, but this is going to be a huge investment coming in for them as well. Air India had about 5,000 extra personnel in corporate and admin responsibilities. This also led, of course, to a significant cost for the airline. Half of them, it's said, are expected to retire in the next 5 years or so. So how will the Tatas look at overhauling the entire airline? One is, of course, bidding for it, coming full circle in terms of its ambitions in the aviation space. They've already had non-compete signed by Singapore Airlines and AirAsia with Air India because, as you know, they already have a stake in and partnership in with both of those key global airlines for Vistara, and of course they have a stake in AirAsia. So they've done full service, low cost both. They've dabbled their feet in aviation over the last few years, but this brings them back full circle to an airline that JRD founded 67 years ago. Yeah. And then, of course, the government took over at that time.
Before I go across to Manu Kaushik, who's our aviation correspondent as well, Abha, there have been a few naysayers as far as Air India divestment is concerned, for many emotional reasons as well. You always see Air India as the national carrier, and whenever there's an emergency to bring back citizens who are stranded overseas as well, Air India is the airline that brings them back. And because of these emotional reasons, versus the fact that the government had to divest at some point of time because it just became to a point of no return financially, given the amount of funds that they've been infusing in this debt-laden airline. What have been the arguments for and against to give our viewers a certain perspective on this?
So it's nationalistic, isn't it, Chaiti? There will always be contenders that don't want the government to give away its crown jewels, and aviation is a tough business. We all know the kind of fuel costs, the kind of lease costs that weigh on some of these businesses. It's an industry which no one has really been able to crack as yet in terms of the business model and really finding that sweet spot. We've had, we of course have some successful companies, and Indigo, SpiceJet, but they've also gone through some turbulence in their journey so far, just because of some of these extraneous factors that the industry faces. So there have been major challenges. We all know the stories of Kingfisher, Jet, and some, very major airlines that have gone under in the past. And it's a global phenomenon. It's not just here in India. So there will obviously be resistance to parting with what are seen as the government's crown jewels. But given that we were looking at about, I think, 50-60,000 crores of debt, about 10,000 crores of losses, it was time the government really brought in a new owner, a private player. And this is also in line with what the government has been saying strategically. They have been talking about the divestment process. They have been talking about partnerships. They've been talking about really creating efficiencies across industry. And, like you said earlier, this is going to have a collateral effect, make it easier for the end consumer as well, and for overall growth in the economy.
Yes, absolutely. I also want to go across to Manu Kaushik, our aviation correspondent of Business Today TV. Manu, how are you viewing this development, and rather very strategic as far as the government is concerned, to match the fiscal deficit targets of the government, who's been trying to divest Air India for a while now, and perhaps this also sets the ball rolling going forward for the other divestment plans that they have in the offing.
Right. This is a very good start to the disinvestment process of the government. I would like to say that this has been hanging on for a long, and good that government has finally decided to sell it to Tata Group. The good thing about this is that the losses which the government was incurring for so many years have now been stopped. So it was a dead horse which the government was flogging. So now it's gone. Now it's gone to a private entity which can actually run it in a much better way than the government itself. Because if you remember, in 2018, Arun Jaitley's whole contention of selling Air India was that it was not making profit for so long. So why the government be in the business of running it? So now it's gone. So I think it's a big. It's going to give a huge, money to the government in terms of disinvestment process.
Right. Also, Manu, do you have any nuances in terms of the bidding price as far as SpiceJet founder Ajay Singh is concerned versus Tata's? These were the two top contenders in the fray. What is it that led to Tata's eventually going ahead and winning this bid? And of course, not to forget, it's come in full circle because this is the airline that was started by GRD Tata back in the day.
Right. It's not been formally announced, so we are still waiting the exact details. But as Abha said, that it's the price is between 10,000 to 15,000 crore on top of the 23,000 crore of debt which Tata would be assuming. It's a huge number, and that's what we are hearing. And it's I mean, obviously that it's going to the highest bidder, which is Tata Group. SpiceJet has quoted much lower than the Tata Group, so it's pretty much known so far.
Also, I want to take this across to Abha. Abha, there were many naysayers, as you were talking to us earlier about as well, for emotional reasons, did not want to sell this particular airline as well. But it is the fear of marginalization that perhaps could be the one point due to which you can convince any kind of a naysayer as far as the divestment of this national carrier and the crown jewel of the country is concerned.